Good morning, Bitcoins. We're live on the World Crypto Network. It's block number 314,453, and this is the World Crypto Network Town Hall Meeting with Chris Ellis.
Hello. So this is it, guys. This is our first ever town hall meeting, and I called it for a couple of weeks ago, and I said we should all get together because it was becoming apparent to us all that this network was getting bigger. We were getting lots of people tuning in, liking our work, and I thought it would be a good idea if we could get our heads together in an open and transparent way, like we're doing, and actually discuss where we want to take the network. So we had four main issues that I wanted to discuss. One sec, I've also got an echo in the background. Help.
It's probably the window with the chat room because
Yeah,
the chat room is now open. So if you follow the YouTube link, we have a chat room. So we don't have question and answers this week. We have a chat room. So check that out.
yeah. So basically, there are four issues that we've got to go through. One is like how, if we do want to formalize the network, how do we want to do it? Do we want to have elections and actually vote for who gets to manage some of the bounties and things like that? Because we're also noticing that we're getting some donations as we're doing more pushes for those kinds of things. We also wanted to know if we could do like an auditions day. And if we do, and if we can get audience members to become hosts on the show, how should we run those? Some people have suggested, I think like Nick said, that we could base it on the number of views, maybe like every other Friday or one Friday a month, we have one day when people can audition, and the person that gets their slot is based on the number of views. We also had the idea of all setting up Bitcoin Armory wallets, sharing our raw public keys, which is a feature unique to Armory. And then with those raw public keys, you can actually create multi-signature addresses, which means that more than one person can operate the Bitcoin account. We also had a suggestion from Dustin, aka BTC Art Gallery, and he suggested that the World Crypto Network could set up their own coin as part of a fundraiser. I've also got an idea that we could run a crowdfunding campaign for the equivalent of a silver membership for the Bitcoin Foundation that would just be a one-off like crowdfunding thing we'd do to pay for a new website, pay for like all the basic admin stuff like paying for the domain, maybe paying somebody to a small amount to do like the social media stuff just to kind of keep people engaged, because it's quite useful to have like a social media manager anyway, because then you can like put the links out to the videos on like rotation for all the different time zones to make sure everyone is made aware of the content that we're putting out there. And also, I also would quite like to raise money just so that we can start rewarding some of the Redditors that we've been featuring on our shows. We often do feature people on Reddit and on the Bitcoin Talk forum, and it'd be really nice if we could tip them with something like change tip, even if it's just like a thousand milli bitcoins, because to say thank you, we featured the article. It's just a way of like paying it forward. So the first question I kind of wanted to ask everyone is basically on a scale of 1 to 10. Like, how committed are you to the idea of actually getting involved in an administration role? Like, it's fine if you just want to stay as like a regular host and then you can just come and go on the shows as you have been. But is anyone here actually interested in taking more of an active role in running the network? Should we go through people? Hello, Derek.
Hey, yeah, I'm interested, but I am going to need some instruction because some of the things, like administratively, I don't really know how to do, but I'd be interested in taking on responsibilities if I'm given some clear instruction.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can take us through Armory if anyone wants to. It's a very simple thing once you get used to it. And one of the ideas there was that if we all started sharing our public keys before we actually get up and running and actually host elections and all that stuff, which is very complicated, we could just start practicing. We could just start like setting up some multi-sig wallets, doing some fundraisers on Twitter for like a new logo or I don't know, whatever, just make something up and then start seeing, like getting used to it and seeing it work. Because one of the benefits of having multi-sig is that as an organization, we won't be capable of being shut down by any one government, because all of our keys will be in different parts of the world. Like right now we've got Paul on the line who's representing Fra Louis from Thailand, and I guess Paul, you're in Thailand yourself, right?
I am, yes.
And you weren't sure how much of a role you wanted to take. Does anyone mind if I start with Paul? Just to introduce
No,
yourself.
go ahead. My name is Paul. I'm in Thailand, and I know personally Pra Louis, or Louis you can call him. He's a monk in Thailand. He has no monetary care whatsoever because he's a monk. He doesn't care about money. He wants to know what this can do for the world. I'm not a monk, and I wouldn't mind making some money as well. But so with two people who have very different approaches to things. He doesn't care about money. He's trying to make things better for the world. I'm trying to make things better for the world as well, but if I can make $1 or $2, yeah, sure. Yeah. But
so
we kind of have a different role.
What's really nice about it is that, like, we've had people come in, like one guy from Ghana, another guy from Nepal. We've got some people in South America, a guy, obviously I host the show already, from Borneo. So what would be quite nice is to reach out to more of these different regions and see if we can't get this kind of distributed autonomous organization where the people, rather than going out and do a massive crowdfund campaign and raising lots of money, which we probably wouldn't be able to do anyway, you'd end up funding the show on a project by project basis, on a team by team basis. So maybe Derrick, me, and one other person has a multi-sig, and then we would be responsible for getting the new website up, let's just say. Then you would just be funding that on a project by project basis, and then you don't have this burden of like raising lots of money and then everyone wants to know where the product is and everyone's waiting for it. We could end up like setting the standards for how this should be done.
You talked before about an administrative role. That is something I really would not like to do. But if you say, can you throw in a Bitcoin or two to help the people who do want to do that thing, then yes, I'm in. Because I want to succeed. I will donate because it's like service to self, it's service to others kind of thing, you know. So I would donate money to help people who are prepared to take that role if they can be financed to take on that responsibility. I would do that.
So the way I would run that, and my suggestion on the Reddit thing was that what we should do is have everyone who is prepared to do an administrative role to step up and declare their intention, and then host blockchain-based elections every 10,000 blocks or 9 months, whatever. Yeah. And then what you do, each person gets assigned a random number from 1 to 7. And then the first non-zero number in the Bitcoin nonce in that designated block, that's you, right? So if the first non-zero number is 7, then you are number 7, then you get selected to look after the keys for those 10,000 blocks. And that's $400 million worth of randomness, right? That's really fucking random. And Blake was even saying that he could even write a script that could actually move the coins from each person's wallet and stuff like that, and we'll do some jazzy stuff. I don't want to get bogged down in like the administrivia in this episode, because really it was just about taking your guys' temperature, see if anyone is actually up for doing it, because what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to push the boat out and then end up being like Thom and me just end up doing all the work because actually people's hearts weren't in it. So I wanted to see like if people wanted to do it. Also, we've got a troll box below this video as well, so I guess we can get feedback from the audience members as well. Like, should the audience members have the ability to vote for us? And if they do, should we set up a forum where people can come in and like, you know, speak to us, give us ideas for the shows, that kind of thing?
Well, I'd like to be a donator to the people who want to take on that role. I'll finance it because I've benefited, I should say, from BTC already, and I want to give back to people who have more skills than me to do that.
Very good, Derrick. What do you think? Does that sound good?
Well, I should hope that I wouldn't be the only volunteer for an administrative role in addition to you and Thomas. However, I'm not quite sure how much would be required administratively. If a lot of this is going to be automated, excuse me.
Yeah, I think this is the wallet, by the way. I just got that up. Let me just get rid of that. Well, in terms of administration, it's basically just looking after the Twitter, looking after the Reddit account, and then the website. We've still got to design the website properly, and that should be done. So we need to have like a small team of, I would say, 3 people plus the actual designer. Someone very kindly offered to do it on the Reddit for us, who's in London, not too far from me, so I can kind of liaise with that. But we just need to get together as a small team. I wouldn't advise doing the website by committee, because usually that just falls apart. I'd rather leave it to an expert. But as a committee, we could all agree on the content. So what should this communicate? What is it about? We should probably do it like in WordPress so that normal people can just update it and do all the content management stuff. And what I was going to suggest was we have 2 World Crypto Network channels. World Crypto Network normal one, and then World Crypto Network 2, where people can break out. So the problem with mainstream media is that it's concision, concision, concision. As soon as you run out of time, the really interesting guest who is about to say something really insightful has to be cut off, because they don't have time, because they've got to skip to, and finally, some guy finds 50p on the floor, and how funny is that? Ha ha ha. And it's just like really, really pointless content. But what we can do is, if we've got a really interesting discussion, and someone else's slot is due, what we can do is just push them onto World Crypto Network 2. And then they can carry on that interesting discussion. And then so on the website, you've got 2 pages. You've got World Crypto Network 1, World Crypto Network 2, and then that becomes the place where you watch the videos. It'll still be on YouTube. It's just that it will be embedded in there.
So I'll help out with the admin too. No problem.
And I should also say, like, existentially, why does this network exist? It exists to support the people on the front line. So it's there to give them everything they need to help publicize. So this is probably not the network for you if you've already got thousands of followers and are already popular. But if you're a lone voice and maybe you're finding it difficult to get noticed, or you've got something insightful to say, this is probably the place for you to come, because we can help like tweet out your links and help get viewers and help you find your audience, as it were. And then once you're kind of ready to fly, then you can fly, and then other people can come in and, like, as in Satoshi's own words, people can join and leave the network at will, and it can still be expected to operate as the users anticipated. So it should tolerate people coming to the network, leaving the network, going off, diverting their energies somewhere else. You see what I mean? But that will need some janitors to look after it. And we're also joined by Megan. Hello.
Hello, everyone. Sorry I was late.
No, that's so cool. So what do you make of this? We're talking about pushing the network forward. We should probably start making some decisions, but mostly today was about taking people's temperature to see how into this that they were, like, actually running as administrators. So it's totally cool if you just want to stay as a host, but it was basically a way of finding out if anyone wanted to volunteer initially to become like an administrator.
Okay, well, what I've heard so far sounds really good. I'm probably going to be more on the host side. I kind of tend to prefer to be on that side of things, but sounds good so far.
Cool, cool. Did anybody download the Armory wallet? Cool. Okay, let me see if I can do the share screen thing. Okay, yeah, got the infinite. Okay, so you basically go into your Armory, you double click on your wallet as you would normally, and essentially you're looking for copy raw public key, and then in brackets it's got hex. So in order to get this up, you'll probably need to, let's put that in the way, you'll need to go up to user and then expert to begin with. That will open up the lockbox. You then go into your actual wallet, right click, and then go copy raw public key. And then if you want to just email me your raw public key, I'll put them up on the website. And then what that allows us to do is anyone can then create a lockbox for anyone else. So here's an example of a couple of lockboxes that I've already created with Fra Louis and also Nick, aka PyRebel. You basically click create lockbox. You can set anything up to 7 of 7, I think, or 6 of 7 is the maximum. And you just put in the person's raw public key in there. You put their name in, just create that, and then go save lockbox, and then that will create you like a little text, a little piece of text. And what the beauty of the Bitcoin blockchain is that all this information that you're putting in here is totally public. So it doesn't matter if you like other people see that you've done it or that you put it on social media, because that's the beauty of asymmetric cryptography. Your private key is what makes this work in your wallet. So a couple of things here. You need to be really, really careful with your private keys. Like when you make the Armory wallet in the beginning, you should make sure you've got a strong password. I recommend you generate it with the Wi-Fi turned off. And you should back up your keys. With Armory, you only have to back it up once. You can just do a paper backup, and then you never have to do it again. And then be really careful with it, because obviously if you're a 2 of 3 holder and one of the other people loses the keys, we'll never get those coins back. But that's why I said we should probably just spend the next couple of months. Don't do any elections yet. Maybe leave the elections until later this year, and then just spend the first couple of months just doing some practice runs. Let's raise a couple of, however, like a Bitcoin or something for the actual fundraising of the website. Let's see how that works. And also, I think it would be an interesting social experiment as well. Like, it'll be a really good, interesting experiment in how people build relationships over time zones. Like, once you actually have because you never had a joint account unless you were married to someone. So these will kind of be like blockchain weddings, no? So someone else there have some say. What about you, Theo? What do you think? Blockchain wedding?
Yeah, it's like a blockchain wedding or blockchain flirting, or I don't know what you want to call it, but yeah, sure. You want to share my private key? Do you have a private?
Well, you don't have to show the private. So you only have to show the raw public key.
Raw,
it's even better.
Raw. We're getting raw here. Now, to stay on subject, I think it's a great idea, and I'm willing to help out with admin. We have to decide, talk about what that involves, but WordPress or social stuff is no problem for me. Yeah, and I think I totally agree. We need to do this multi-sig stuff and do some small projects like you mentioned, and get some experience with it and document our experience, and then continue on with bigger projects. But step by step, do some smaller ones using these multi-sig things, and yeah, practice what we preach and really use blockchain technology to do some projects. And I think that's the whole point, or one of the points, is to actually use this stuff and use tools that are already available, so we don't have to spend a lot of time ramping up a big project and developing, or I don't know, whatever stuff. I mean, all that stuff has merit, and pre-sale and all that has merit, but I don't think that's what we should do. I think that we should use stuff that's already available. There's a lot available, and it's not being used that much, or I haven't heard of a company using multi-sig at addresses like we're talking about to do fundraising and stuff. Not that much. Maybe they're not telling anyone.
What's out there at the moment is lots of people talking about doing it, and there's obviously Ethereum have got a multi-sig, but the problem is they don't have a product. We're the first, as far as I'm aware, we are the first distributed autonomous organization with a product and with funding. So we're already delivering. The problem with these other projects is that they're very theoretical and they're technical and they haven't delivered yet. So as far as I'm aware, we'd be the first team of people to actually be fundraising with multi-sig, with all this kind of accountability. And not only that, but also I am now getting into the habit of doing all my work in GitHub, even my scripts for the show. So you'll actually be able to find the script for this show in the town hall meeting, script for town hall. And this is the script for this show. So you'll actually be able to see like all of my thoughts, maybe some of my mistakes, maybe I took some stuff out, and I commit that. And then periodically, I'm going to be putting the hashes of this work in the blockchain, in the Bitcoin blockchain. Even this video, that's why we read out the Bitcoin block number at the beginning, was to prove that this meeting took place between that time and the time that I end up putting it in the blockchain.
Yeah.
So it's about being as accountable and as transparent as possible. But what's really good with Git is, like, let's say you have like a meeting with someone, you can still produce a hash of that conversation without divulging it to anyone else. So you can still put the hash in the blockchain, and then later on, if anyone wants to scrutinize you, or you had some source, because I do get people contacting me trying to like leak information about this and that company or whatever. Well, what's really cool is I can prove that that took place beforehand without divulging any of the personal identifiable information. If anyone wants to scrutinize it, I can just go to them in private, show them my Git repository, they can check the hash, and then they know that that happened.
Yeah. So if I understand correctly, basically, if you're interested in being in part of the multi-sig thing, then you just follow the steps that you outlined in Armory, and then email you or post your hex address somewhere on the Reddit or somewhere,
Well,
and then
we'd put it on our website. So each host would have like a profile page or whatever, and then we can just put your raw public key. Maybe your PGP key would be good as well, so that people can send encrypted messages to you. So Paige Peterson on the comments is saying, what happens if you don't have enough computer space to download Armory and the entire blockchain? That's a very good question. So you can run Armory in offline mode if you don't have enough space. It only takes one person to transmit. In fact, you can even use blockchain.info's sendTX feature. So I can't remember the URL off the top of my head, but it's blockchain.info/ something like transmit TX. And then you just copy paste the transaction, and then it sends it to the blockchain. Because the Armory wallet will produce the signed transaction, but you can't transmit it to the blockchain without the full copy of the blockchain. So that's the only drawback. But it's not a big deal. Someone else can just do it for you. You can just send them a copy of it.
Okay, for me, I think I would like to, I'm not real good at doing the websites or any of that sort of, media creation outside of talking, and I'm not that good at that sometimes. And so I kind of would like to just do sort of what I have been doing, and I really don't want to be involved with being responsible for money either, and I don't have a problem with other people doing that, or collecting funds and giving it to it, but I don't want to be the one responsible for holding money for the organization.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the janitorial role, I think it'll be horses for courses. It'll be whoever wants to step up and do it. On the one hand, it's kind of an incentive for that person to build a reputation. It's not like somebody else just raising funds where they've not got so much of a public presence. The fact is, we all put our legal identities out there. We've got a vested interest in preserving our reputations. And I also see this, and this comes on to issue 2. We don't have to move on to it right now, but Nick's idea, Nick and I have been working on this idea of decentralize the world. We can actually help raise money for regions of the world that have problematic governments, where we can end up owning 2 of the 3 signatures. So someone on the ground in that country that may take exception to them raising money can have 1 key, but then Nick and I can have the other 2. Because Nick and I are like hosts on this show, we're both in different countries, we've got a vested interest in preserving our reputations, that if that person comes under threat, no one can take the coins off of them. Do you see what I mean? Because we'd actually kind of offer that as a kind of free service, as it were, where you could like tip us, we'd basically earn the reputation for it. And that could be a unique feature as well.
Aren't those coins lost then, though, if that person loses his key?
No, because you can do 2 of 3. So if you as long as the other 2, and you can do like 2 of 5 or 3 of 5. You can do any combination you like, but 2 of 3 seems to be the most popular at the moment.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I'm going to give up my spot then and let somebody else take it.
Cool. All right. Well, it was good to see you, Jamie, and you can always take part in the chat room as well.
All right. Bye.
Thank you. So, Darby, what do you think?
I feel like I'm sort of mostly a spectator because I'm not a host, so at most I'm a guest, and so I feel like I'm kind of just learning what's going on more than have much an input.
But would it be something you would be interested in? And even if you wouldn't be interested in doing it yourself, do you think we should? Is this a good idea? Do you like what you've heard so far?
Yeah, for sure. I have the bandwidth to take on a lot of responsibilities because I have a lot of things I'm doing already, although I wish I could. But I like the way it's going. I mean, I like the idea that there's a sort of system to it, so it sounds promising.
And David, what do you think? You're muted.
Hi. Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I definitely want to support this going forwards, and if people don't know, I've got a background where I was with CoinDesk in the early days, work as a freelance journalist, so I've got plenty of experience working with social media, content management, WordPress hacking, so I can turn my hand to that. Talking of multi-signatories being like crypto weddings, my fiance is really into crypto too, and she's sort of in the back channel saying that she is more than happy to work on any administrative roles, virtual private assistants, and anything like that that we need doing. So me and my other half are here ready to help out, and yeah, I mean, it'd be great if there's some remuneration, because speaking personally, because of health, I have limited energy, so I need to pay the bills and everything, but I think there's a really good organisation happening here, and I want to see it nurtured and go forwards, and those are the things I can lend. Something else I was thinking of as well, which is a little bit off topic, is that sometimes, maybe depending how we do shows in the future, we're going to need a chat moderator as well, so that's another sort of janitorial role that might need filling.
Yeah, I really would like us to set a culture of paying for value. Like, I want to see more content providers online be paid for the work that they do on a voluntary basis. Like, we're at the moment, Thom is doing this, Thom and I are doing this campaign to get Jenna Marbles into Bitcoin. He's been putting in a lot of work this afternoon, getting, you know, tweets out there with those PSDs and stuff. And you know what? She deserves it. She's been making videos for all these years, and she's struggling to find. I know she's earned some good money in her time as well, but the advertising industry is failing right now. And I think if you start to encourage people to say, look, you know, here's an opportunity for you to actually engage with your audience in a totally different way and get them to express their gratitude with these very small tips. Someone like Jenna Marbles with 13 million followers on YouTube, even if she only got 1,000 Satoshis each from like 20% of her audience, she's still going to be making thousands of dollars per video, right? So that's easy enough for her to pay her rent. And then if you start to do that and you build up this new culture of, like, you know, even if it's like, you know, a Redditor gets 1,000 Satoshis because we mentioned them in a show, or like David gets, you know, some coins just for doing some tweets, or we could automate rotate some tweets from different time zones and stuff so that people can get that kind of exposure. It all adds up after a while. And as people start to see us doing this, and you know that theory that Jimmy Wales has where it's like it works in practice but not in theory, when you show people one of those, like as an example, they go, oh wow, that's really counterintuitive. I did not anticipate this working, but now you've shown me, I'm going to join in, you know. So that should be something that we're aiming for as well, really. So that was really issue one. Oh, so do you guys have any thoughts on how to get the audience involved more? So what if someone like Jamie comes to us and says, I want to have a show, but then let's say it's a bit awkward because they're not very good and stuff like that. Like, how do we keep this as open as possible, but also set a limit? Nick, who's going to be joining us soon, has suggested that we have like an audition day every month or whatever, and that day is just for auditions, and then whether or not you get a slot will depend on how many views you got. So it's a good honest signal because you can't really game it as easily. What do you guys make of that? Anyone any thoughts?
I'm all for auditions, but I've already auditioned a few spots on Bitcoin Talk Show because anyone can call in, anyone can join the Hangout, anyone can be a part of the show via Skype. So there have been some personalities like Bjorn and Sam Silva, just a couple of folks around the world who are like, oh, I can take control of this, I can have a show, like, and they've just done it. So an audition once a month isn't a bad idea, but I would also invite people to take control of Bitcoin Talk Show on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, as an example, you know, let's see what they've got.
Yeah.
I'm all for sharing the floor.
What about submissions? Like, not necessarily people who call in live, but what if you, like, just sort of like mailbag on Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse or something like that? What if it was understood that there was a segment potentially in any show that was like, hey, if you send us a 30-second clip of you talking about anything, we might just feature that clip. You know what I mean? And invite anybody to send in 30-second clips, and the limit then is the time limit and then the selection process, but that gives you an opportunity to let sort of feedback from the audience get onto a show.
Yeah, that sounds good.
A couple of suggestions I have on this is that I don't think views alone is a good metric, because that doesn't take into account the long tail effect, and also it doesn't really tell you what the sentiment of those viewings were. So perhaps we could do something like Thom did a while ago when he was doing Coin of the Week, and people would have to donate to different wallet addresses to vote up the coin. We could have a vote up system by sending, and not even necessarily how much each person was given in total, but how many transactions they received. And then even people who don't get selected, we can give them the funds that people voted with for them.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it could even be like a voting process of some kind, like one Satoshi is one vote, or...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. How would you protect against Sybil attacks, or do we not need to worry about that at this phase?
What type of attacks?
Like someone just sending in 1,000 Satoshis just to kind of rig it.
We have that problem with any way of doing it, unless we're going to have some sort of convoluted authentication system where it's one vote per person in the world, and I think that's beyond our means.
Yes, probably is. I think Let's Talk Bitcoin did just like 1 millibit, which is like $1.
Yeah. I mean, if it was based on YouTube hits, I could write a bash script to gain that.
Right.
I like the Pee Wee Herman idea, where it's like, as I described it at the Reddit, it's just like a window. So it's like, I mean, it could be Bitcoin talk show, kind of. I don't know, but I guess you could do one for submissions as well, where it's just a time constraint, and it's just a matter of, and that window is always open. You can always submit to it, and then I guess unless it's like just, it will get played, even if it's some weird art or whatever, or some guy dressed up in a gorilla suit doing Bitcoin talk or whatever. You know, I mean, that could be really, I mean, it's just a window, you know what I mean? You have to let a little bit of chaos happen, and then sometimes maybe something really interesting will happen. You never know. I mean, we could discuss the technicalities of it, if it's 1 minute or if it's 5 minutes or whatever. I don't think that's another discussion, but I think this kind of open window is a really good idea to see what's out there.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, let me ask you all, what's your preferred method of communication? Because we're all like sufferers of ADHD these days. We've got so much inbound traffic. I know I have. I've got lots of emails, lots of people on Twitter. How do you, because I've noticed if I send out long emails on a BCC with a large list, I get no responses. If I send like one sentence to an individual, I usually get like 100% response rate. How do you guys feel about that? How should we collaborate?
Email.
All right.
Email has the value of creating a long-term record.
Yes, that is true. Oh, Paul, do you want to drop out now? Because it's quite early for you as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say I want to drop out and give somebody else who knows a bit more to contribute some space if we're limited to 10 space. But I was just going to say, when I find when in my own business, which is an online business, not really related to Bitcoin, if I write a really, really long response to something, very comprehensive response to something, it might take them a month to answer me back. If I write a one-liner, they'll answer me within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So, and something, I know Lewis, who's not, I think he's watching this right now, and I've spoken to him on the phone. Although he can't get on right now, he said to me, is it give them the basic, the detail, and then the technical, and let them choose where they want to go. So I would say to start with simple one-liners. Do you want to know more? Okay, we'll do that. Do you want to know more? You really want to dig into it? Like, okay, you know. But what I would like to ask you, if there are other people who want to get in, this is my first time ever on a Google Hangout. How do I get out to make room for another person?
Oh, you just close the window down. There's already 2 slots available anyway, so I don't think you're keeping anyone out. But you just close the window down, and it will just take you off.
Either that or click the red phone hang-up icon.
I can see that. I just don't want to keep more useful people out of the way. I thought I was going to be watching a video, that's all. But I can see that. If you want me to move, then I can.
Yeah, well, you can either watch in the public gallery and you can chat to us in the chat box, or you can stick around because you're not. There are still 2 places left. Yeah, so we have a comment from Paige Peterson. She says, if somebody sends $1,000 worth of BTC to support an individual participant, it might not be worth it if they're guaranteed to lose most of it. That's what LTB did for their network expansion. Okay, interesting. Yeah, we should probably look at more detail about how those guys did it. And I think as well, maybe I'm preempting it here, but the differentiation, we get on really well with Let's Talk Bitcoin, and actually we're all fans, I think, aren't we, of their show. I think it's really nice that they're kind of doing like the podcast and like some really good long form stuff that's kind of serious, and then we're kind of doing the live thing. One of the feedback that I've got is that the World Crypto Network's kind of found its niche in this live event space, like because people want the information up to date and really fresh. But then LTB are quite good because they do this sort of deep dive kind of interviews and get really technical and stuff. So yeah, it'd be good to see how they do things. Okay, and what did you guys think of BTC Art Gallery's idea of starting a World Crypto Network coin? And also, if you've got any opinions at home, we can see 40 people watching, so also tell us in the chat box. But what do you guys think?
I'm not sure.
On Reddit?
Completely new to World Crypto.
Where can I reference this idea?
So he just emailed me. So he emailed Tom and I a while ago, and he said, like, you guys could set up your own proof of stake coin, so no sort of mining, it's all done in the wallet. And he thought that we could do quite well because we've got good reputation and stuff. But like in general, do you think it's a good idea, bad idea, indifferent?
Will that prohibit interacting with New York?
Yes, probably it will. We'd probably have to register in New York.
Yeah.
I loved your tweet, Darby. That was brilliant.
What tweet?
You tweeted out a portrait of Ben Lawsky.
The disobey thing, yeah.
Tweet Angry Birds in New York.
My initial impulse is to be against the idea of a World Crypto Network coin. It seems unnecessary. But if someone has a strong argument in favor of it, I'm willing to listen.
Yeah, okay. Well then, with Dustin's permission, I will put his email up on the Reddit, and we can kind of look at that. Yeah, this is the tweet. I just absolutely think it's amazing. It's incredible.
I'm going to be a curmudgeon as well and say I don't really see the point in us doing a currency for the network. The only reason I can think for doing it is not to pay people, but to have our own internal blockchain for recording facts and figures about things, not for actually paying or like remunerating people, because it's just going to be yet another altcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
agree.
the idea was that you were going to be able to pay for content providers and things like that. But I don't want to. I want to do him justice, so I just wanted to get people's temperature on that. And then what I'll do is I'll put his email with his permission in full on Reddit, and people can kind of upvote it or have their say. The alternative that I was thinking, or not just an alternative, it could be both and, is doing like a crowdfund on Indiegogo for the equivalent of a year's silver membership to the Bitcoin Foundation. So that's $5,000 for the top end silver, and that would just be a one-off crowdfund to help bootstrap the website. Also microphones, things like, you know, basic stuff like when we went to Porkfest, it would have been great to have had some better mics and cameras and stuff, just to generally get the quality of the production values up. What do you guys think?
I think.
Go ahead, Mary.
Is Bitcoin Starter still up and working?
Don't think so. The reason I like Indiegogo, though, and the only reason I mentioned it, is because they've been really friendly to Bitcoin fundraisers so far, because Bitcoin has been able to put their Bitcoin address, so you're not locked out of fiat. Because if we go with StartJoin's fine, and I like Max Kaiser, but people say there's too much friction to paying on there. and then also you're paying in bitcoins, but then they're taking a commission. They may as well just send you the bitcoins directly. It just seems like an extra hurdle to go through.
Can't you just do both? There's no way. I mean, you can just.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, just do both. Just hit up all. Just do total massive invasion of all of them. You know, just do whatever ones are relevant, and just you can sign up. There's no rule against being on more than one. I think so. I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds like a good suggestion.
I think crowdfunding is definitely a good idea. I mean, in terms of getting startup funding, and as well, I mean, using Patreon would be good for getting any sort of long-term small donations that would, if we get enough subscribers, would scale up very nicely.
Yeah. I should say as well, like the way Thom and I were thinking of doing the financing of it was to keep a separation of duties and concerns. So every participant on the network is still responsible for collecting their own fundraising. And also, we don't want to be middlemen. So it's not like the music industry where we end up taking all the value away from the talent that produces it, and we just sell a package. All of you are going to have your own coin accounts. You're going to go on your shows. You're still going to raise your own money. But all the World Crypto Network is going to be is like some admin in the background. It's like really efficient way to run it, where you just pay for basic admin, so that you don't end up with this corporate monster that just wants to absorb everything and like take over the world and keep scaling, and then we get like a merchandise thing, and then we get all this other kind of megalomaniac like issues that tend to come up. So yeah, if we do the crowdfunding, we just make it really, really explicit that this is what this is for. We're not trying to raise like $2 million to bring out something that will never come out. It's like, no, we've already got a product, and you are funding the website, or you are funding for some new microphones and some kit, because it would be really good if we could get people joining us from regions of the world that are only just coming online in terms of bandwidth. They're just good enough now to like get some videos on the go, but it would be really cool if we could send them some microphones and some cameras and stuff, so that they don't have to buy all that stuff, or buy it on like an Amazon wish list thing.
Well, if we're doing that, just an idea to put out there is that I mean, the whole idea, the whole ethos behind a lot of the stuff that we're supposed to be doing here is about transparency and open transactions. So how about, as part of the campaign, we actually put together a definite shopping list and say, this is what we want to spend this amount on, that amount on, this amount on, etc.
Yeah, I think that's good.
I mean, you could even document when it's bought, and you could just say this transaction is for the microphone, this transaction is for the camera, or whatever. I mean,
well, that's what I think the GitHub is going to be useful for, because GitHub, I recommend you all go set up accounts, and then I can add you as contributors, because you can just like take a picture of your receipt, put it in your folder, and it will just generate a hash for that picture, right? You can upload it to there, and then every week I'll just keep putting the hashes into the blockchain. So it proves the existence of the whole project. So over time, you'll just get like a hash that will just prove how, or just document how, the World Crypto Network evolved over time. So that would be a pretty straightforward way of doing it, I think.
Yep.
Okay. So audition days, elections. So are you guys, before I leave issue 1, are you guys happy with Thom and I running things for now? Are we dictators, or how are we doing?
I think it's fun that you guys are taking charge.
We're also very much, we're basically the monarchy of this. We're self-appointed, top down.
Are we subject?
You guys and your monarchies.
Are we subject to Mr. Chris Ellis now?
Yeah, exactly. So, but we're going to be benevolent dictators. We're going to be like Tyson.
I've heard that one before.
Yeah, exactly. But this time it really is true. And we're going to stage a coup, but it's going to be a reverse coup. So it's a coup where we give it over to the people. It's like a backward version of the French Revolution.
Well, being in Thailand, we have more coups here than we have the Olympics every 4 years. We're used to that,
Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much issue 1. Now, issue 2 is pretty straightforward. It's like, do you want to take part in this Decentralize the World campaign that Nick PyRebel and I are doing, where we're trying to reach out to communities across the world that are only just getting online in terms of bandwidth, and then the plan is to send them like a goodie bag of kit. So we would send them, at the top end, we would send them some WiMAX antennas so they can get like a mesh net going, because apparently they're like $70, and there's a company called Ubiquity that has a really active forum on their website with many people from developing countries already on there. So we could go into them, do a partnership with them. We could send them a copy of the blockchain, a full copy of the 24 gigabytes, so they don't have to spend years downloading it. They've just got a full copy right away. Give them Linux distributions, maybe some laptops. The other people on Reddit have also come forward and said, oh, there's this organization that's trying something similar. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. I thought what would be good is, since we're already good at doing things like raising awareness on social media, and we've already got, you know, picking up growing audience on this channel, why don't we reach out to existing charities and NGOs that are doing this and start getting the blockchain and the cryptocurrency stuff like the Skyhook ATM and other sort of opens, like CoinPunk, for example, is another one, where it's like your own Bitcoin blockchain.info, right? You can run your own blockchain.info on your own server, that kind of thing. Yeah, are any of you interested in getting into that?
Sounds like a really cool project. I'm not sure I have the time to commit to that.
Yeah, time is a bit of an issue. I really like the idea. I'm gonna talk to Jason King about this too. I think that's something he would really be interested in. I know time might be an issue with him too, but yeah, I'm gonna be meeting up with him this weekend, talking about Coins in the Kingdom stuff. So I'll mention that because I think after this conference we'll probably both have a little more free time to focus on other projects. So I think I don't want to speak for him. He might be willing to help out, but I think he would like the idea, and it's something that I'm interested in once I have a little more time. So.
Cool.
I think we need. I think that we need to talk about what actually needs to be done with the people that want to volunteer, and I think part of the idea was to sometimes. Maybe there are people already in these locations, and we're just going to basically support them by sending them this stuff. So there's already a guy on the Reddit from Nepal, and there's already a guy from, I don't know, some other countries, and we're just basically trying to get together this care package, or whatever the hell you want to call it, and just get it to them so they can help themselves and do with it whatever they want with it. And so we don't have to like do some world tour necessarily. I mean, that could be an option, but it could be really simple as soon as it gets started, gets going.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's like finding out the people who are already active. Like I know Alakani is down in Botswana. I know she's already got a pretty good Bitcoin meetup group going down there. So yeah, I'm sure there are people active that we just haven't really connected with and haven't found yet. So I think it would be good to just invest some time in finding and making those connections.
Yeah, build it up quite slowly. And Nick has joined us as well. We were just talking about the Decentralize the World campaign, Nick. You're muted.
Hello, sorry. Yeah, I was listening. I just hopped on right now. How's everybody doing?
Yeah, it's going pretty well so far. It's our first town hall, everyone. Is everyone feeling good? Yay!
Yay!
It's going pretty well. We've still got 40 viewers. People can send in their questions. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Hi everyone.
This is gonna go in the blockchain later as well, so it'll be really permanent.
Yeah, that's awesome. But,
yeah. So.
I had a comment on the coin thing from previous. I don't think we should start our own altcoin. I don't think that would be a very good idea.
Right. I think that is the sentiment. I will post up Dustin's suggestion in full, because I think he had ideas about compensation for contributors, and it might be, even if we don't raise our own coin, that we still want to include some of his ideas in a different way. I'm certainly in favor of supporting Bitcoin as much as possible, because I think right now Bitcoin is the one that needs our help, because if Bitcoin fails, all these altcoins fail. So that's kind of been my feeling with it. And we just lost Nick as well. Okay, and then really our last issue, because we pretty much, issue 4 was going to be about the website, but we covered that with issue 1. So really the final issue is going to be filling up the time slots. I basically wanted to make a commitment right now to publish like a schedule of like empty, like gaps in the schedule, and then really to ask you what kind of content did you want us to do, because I don't know if we want to keep doing more and more like Bitcoin shows, because that could get really, really repetitive. Did any of you see any room for expanding the agenda out to more sort of current affairs? Like, for example, on Chris Before Coffee, we don't just make it all about Bitcoin, we make it about geopolitics as it relates to cryptography, and like we often end up bringing it back to the blockchain and saying like that the blockchain could help out here, you know, people that don't get government issued passports and birth certificates, things like that. What do you guys think in terms of the topics that we can cover?
Hey guys, my connection is so jarbled, I'm having a lot of trouble understanding what's being said, so I'm going to try and reset everything and come back.
Okay, no worries. Derrick?
For other shows, although, you know, I do shows about peace or different topics on other networks. So I mean, I don't know if you would want to rerun, but I think there's room for more peace talk always. There's always more room for that.
Yeah. What other networks do you run on, out of interest, Derrick?
Well, my Liberty Radio Network on LRN.FM and my own Peace News Now.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, we should probably have more of that that kind of thing. Do any of you see any obvious gaps in the market at the moment?
A couple of thoughts I've had on different shows that could be done. You could have a complete hardcore techie hardware show talking about building mining rigs, using mining rigs, reviewing pools, etc., everything like that. Something that I'm particularly interested in doing, and I know Fia has expressed an interest in doing a similar thing. I'd be really enthusiastic about doing sort of help and education-based shows.
Yeah, I was talking about. I mean, it doesn't have to be called that, but it could be called like, you know, Bitcoin Helpline or something like that.
Yeah.
You can ask any question you want anonymously. So if you're like, you know, you're embarrassed to tell people that, you know, you lost your private key or I don't know what, you can like call, or it could also be more educational, you know, stuff.
Yeah.
And, something like that. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. My fiance, who I mentioned earlier on, I mean, we're planning to set up a website very shortly with a lot of educational stuff on there, and sort of being involved with such a YouTube show would be perfect. It would be a perfect matching.
And also the other... Go ahead, Megan.
So I just kind of started my crypto convo show, and I left the title broad on purpose so I could kind of go into other fields, cryptography related stuff, you know, just in general, but also a little bit broader than that. So I've already kind of been keeping that in mind. I'd like to get more into, and right now it's an interview show, so it kind of is dependent on the guest, but I'd like to bring in more philosophy and current event type stuff too. I've thought about doing even like a separate podcast or something that's maybe not anything to do with crypto stuff, but yeah, right now I'm just kind of focused on the one and trying to keep it broad enough to cover a lot of area.
Yeah, so I'd really like to do one on the Bitcoin developer mailing list that nobody subscribes to except for the developers. And I've noticed as well on the GitHub, they often complain that, well, they complain that the public complains that it's not open, and yet it is because it's on GitHub. But then, of course, most normal people don't know what the hell GitHub is. So maybe one of our responsibilities as the World Crypto Network could be to actually help draw attention to that. You see what I mean? Like we could actually do a show that is dedicated to all the decisions that the developers made this week.
Yeah, use GitHub as an API to us being PR relays to the public.
Yeah, exactly. I think that would be really good because, like, well, then basically we need someone who's a bit more technical. Like, I'm technical enough and I could manage most things, but it would be really cool if we could get a developer who actually codes, who could go through and just look for any kind of details that could be teased out. Does anyone know anyone like that?
There's 2 people I know of, but they're probably way too busy.
Yes, that's the only problem. We do, yeah, we do have a couple of people that we've had on as guests before that we could ask.
What about Peter Bushnell from Feathercoin?
Yeah. Yeah, the only problem with Peter is he's not really front of house. Like, he doesn't like going on camera.
No.
Like, he does do it, to his credit, but it's not normally his thing. And I was actually thinking of having like a resident, you know, a resident developer who actually has their own presence and their own tipping address and that kind of thing. Because the other thing I want to do is I want to get more sort of producers involved. So like Ksenia, who joins us for Chris Before Coffee, like, she's almost turning into our producer now because she keeps recommending guests to come on and stuff like that. It's just a role that she's fallen into because she happens to bring a bit of energy to it. And that's what I want this whole channel to be about. Just the people that bring the energy to the role should be allowed to do that role, right? So yeah, those are the kind of things. But if you guys have a think about what you want to do, Thom and I will make a Google Doc. We're already making it at the moment, of like a schedule for like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Also, what time zones do you think? Because we're very, very American, European centric at the moment, and obviously we've got Fra Louis in Thailand. But it would be good to get some more regions. What sort of regions do we want to reach out to? Do you think, like time zone wise?
I think Thailand will be a very minor thing right now. We're currently 6 or 7 hours plus GMT, Greenwich Mean Time. And I guess the majority would be probably, it goes both ways, doesn't it? It could be USA, North America, and it could be China and a bit of Russia. And we're somewhere in the middle. And I know with my own business, I'm around the clock. I'm always red-eye like this all the time. So, are you talking about English-speaking people or the number of participants?
Well, that's another good point. I definitely don't like the Anglophonic element to it. I hate that everyone speaks English in the world. So I'd definitely be up for some more foreign language stuff, because then what we can do, like what I really want to do is create like a whole little microeconomy where we can have people that are paid in crypto to do the translations on YouTube, and that can make it more accessible as well. So yeah, if we know anyone in a foreign language that wants to reach out to a new community, that would be really good.
It's not necessarily a different time zone, but I'd like to maybe get somebody from South America. You know, that's a big.
Cheryl.
Yeah.
Spanish would be good, I think, maybe.
Yeah. I think South America would be a good one because traditionally they have like a terrible history of their currencies failing. So I think that would be a very good one, Spanish and Portuguese.
I've talked to a few people about it recently too. I've told you on Twitter. There's Virus, a guy. He's affiliated with the Pirate Party in Argentina. He lives down in like I think. He goes back and forth between Brazil, Argentina, and a few other countries, but he's interested in possibly doing something with us, even just to help get, blockchain copies down there.
Yes, that would be good. Yeah, so what we'll do then is we'll share out after this, and it will go up on GitHub, and I'll send everyone, I'll put it out on Twitter and everything, including the script from this show. If you want to look at what we're doing, it will be up on the GitHub. In fact, I can do that right now. And just send in your contacts. Like say, oh, you should talk to this person. We should get this person on, and then that can go into our auditions that we start doing as well, and then we can start getting some more content on. Different formats. I mean, that's pretty much it. And also, like, how did you guys feel that? Like, what do you think about the town hall idea? How sort of frequently do you want to do it?
Are you talking about the whole thing you've been working on, or something?
No, this actual thing now. Like, is it a good idea? Do you think we should do it more often? If so, how often?
I think it's a very good idea. I'd like to see this happen weekly, and then after maybe like a month or so, we can evaluate how often that was useful. Maybe continue weekly or bring it down to monthly.
Oh, okay, that's pretty good. Anyone else?
I think this is a great idea. It's it's the equivalent of getting together in the staff room over coffees, which is what this is basically is. It's everyone getting together, cross-germinating from all the different pockets of the company. I think probably once a month would be enough, but if it was once a week, as long as there's no pressure to attend, that'd be great.
Yeah. And of course, it's up on YouTube, so even if you miss the meeting, it's perfectly okay. You can just watch it back
Well,
again.
I was intended to be a viewer rather than a participant in this. But if you force it to a calendar date and nothing really happens, we're just going to be talking about nothing.
Yeah.
But if something striking comes up and you're like, oh, we really need to talk about this, then maybe can push a special event. What I wanted to say, going right back to the start of the show, when we were talking about who pays for what and things like that, and I said I would be happy to donate to help the tech guys, the development guys, the thinkers, the thought leaders, all these kind of people. What do you think about the venture capitalists? We put in 3 million there, 25 million there, all this. I said, well, how much are you putting into the guys who are doing the work for you when there's only a handful of people who are doing the real thought in building this? And they're doing it as a love job. And how about putting some money in their pocket and helping them to make this thing grow? The whole world is going to benefit from it. Why don't you give a little bit to them as well while you're at it?
Yeah, well, this is the problem. At the moment, there are too many middlemen. And this is what was frustrating me with the Bitcoin Foundation site redesign and all the, and not just them, to be fair, like everyone in this industry right now, in my opinion, is suffering from a massive failure of thinking. And like they get so far with an idea, they get hung up on the logo, the marketing, and then nothing really happens and they don't really continue to really develop it. And I thought, well, look, we're a nice bunch of self-select individuals that are coming from the same place. And it's like, yeah, we've already got a product, so let's just push it out and let the individuals be rewarded for their efforts, right? So that the organization starts working for them rather than the other way around. The organization doesn't start like getting VCs and then friends of friends start hiring each other's partners and things like that so that they can get a slice of the pie. And then I think actually people will voluntarily fund the World Crypto Network the more it helps the people on the show.
I know when I've paid in Bitcoin to other organizations, I usually pay more than they ask me because I say, good on you, I'm with you. We have a meeting of minds, and I give them double or 3 times what they ask me. You know? Yeah. That's when Bitcoin was small. Now I think, oh, I just gave away a house. Well, not a house. But, I'll say Bitcoin, but crypto in general, generally tend to be more kind-hearted people who are willing to reach out and help other people than being money grabbers of fiat and that kind of thing. And it has served me well, and I would like to give back. I have done a little bit, and I'd like to give more. And I think especially VCs and things like that should be paying their way as well to help these people if they're going to underpin the infrastructure that they're going to use to make the $1 zillion fiat rubbish or something, then maybe they should pay a little bit too. You know, it doesn't have to be a lot. You know.
Yeah. Well, what will be interesting is if we start sharing our raw public keys and we start creating these multi-sig wallets. It'll be really interesting to see where our audience members send their donations to. Like, will Derrick and Nick get a really good reputation for being administrators, and then they'll start to pick up more? You know what I mean, right? That could be a really interesting dynamic. Now, we've just had a comment from Chris from London, who has very, very kindly offered to do our website. So I've invited him on the show, but I'm going to need your email address, Chris. So you can email me on the Reddit, and then I'll send you the link for this show. Or actually, I can just send you the link to the show in Reddit, in fact, which I'll do right now. So yeah, so we were talking about the website earlier. Let's not go into details on this show because websites are like giving birth, and that will have its own show. But yeah, I was just basically envisaging having 2 live pages, 1 main channel, 1 breakout channel, so that if any conversations overrun, they can still go off and have that conversation on channel 2, and just have a website that's really just there to, well, I don't know actually, I don't know, maybe we want a forum, I don't know, that's an open question. So maybe Chris has some ideas. Send him the link. Let's see if he joins. Okay, and where's Thom gone? Does anybody know where Thom went? He came in, he introduced, there he is. What do you think, Thom? He's like, oh, they're operating a coup. Oh, my God.
I think so. Let's see. I made this.
Yeah,
Oh, what is it, Thom? Unbelievable.
sorry, I lost connection there. Oh my God.
Oh, hey, Meg, welcome back. So yeah, so at the moment we are the monarchy, but we're about to behead ourselves. We're about to volunteer for the guillotine and distribute it.
I really want to see that.
Oh, that's so awesome.
I'm sure you can see the joke.
I missed the very end there.
So what did you get up to?
Sorry. Yeah, I was just I was going to say something when you were talking earlier, but it kicked me out. Just you were talking about venture capitalists. We just need to be less reliant on their money in general. The whole space, I feel, is just so poisoned by a lot of their influence. Not all of them. I mean, I don't like to generalize, but yeah, people just need to be, have their own independent sources of funding and not rely on, venture capitalists so much.
Yeah, and also we've got scale as well. We're not reliant on one big player giving us the money we need. We can actually get lots and lots of small donations from people, which can all add up.
Well, do you have a good idea how many people have some Bitcoin or fraction of Bitcoin right now? I mean, I'm guessing 3 or 4 million people or something like that. Am I way out of the...
Well, no one really knows because, of course, you could have any number of Bitcoin addresses per person, so people have tried doing network analysis. It's just too difficult to tell. It's probably less than 1 million, though, realistically. The active Bitcoin users, like that was the analysis I read about 3 or 4 months ago.
So if somebody put $1 each to help however many dev guys, smart, dedicated, full-time, working on this kind of thing. I mean, it's not a big sacrifice for, well, maybe it is for some countries, but for Western countries, $1, okay, this is your fee. This is what maintains the people to develop it and make it better and fix problems and make it stronger.
Well, that's why
never really failed, but
that's why I think Indiegogo would work really well, because that way you're also appealing to the fiat as well. So you're not just dependent on Bitcoiners. And I'm all up for building a more community aspect to this as well, so that it's not just some faceless developer behind the scenes. Like I actually go to Chris's studio and we have pictures and stuff. That's called in psychology, it's called the endowment effect, which is where your customer actually gets to see all the work that goes on behind the scenes, and people are much more likely to pay if they see how much work it went into producing the work, or backstage. So if we make sure that we do communicate to our people, just how much time goes into running it, I'm pretty confident they'll step up and say, oh yes, we want to see this continue, we want to see it exist.
I would. Certainly.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure most people would as well. Because they've all voluntarily entered into this. They're not being pushed into this. I like that. I want it. And I think they would.
Yeah, that sounds really good. So a couple of people, Cheryl is saying that we should do these monthly, these town halls, and then Frank said bi-weekly. So every 2 weeks or every month. That's the kind of... But Derrick is saying, Thom, that we should do these weekly to begin with. And actually, now I think about it, I kind of like that, because that'll kind of keep us on top of things. It'll keep the momentum going, because sometimes you can have these meetings and then everyone goes off and then forgets about it.
My feeling is that would be too frequent, really. You know, it's like how many emails and other tiny little things, and then your day's gone. I think it would be too frequent for the change. Are we just going to be sitting here talking about nothing and talking about what we talked about last week?
Yeah, yeah. I think for the first month, I think a weekly might work because we'd have more to report on depending on how quickly we get the website going. Because today really was to get people's mood and see how they were feeling, get their energy levels.
A good way of doing this, to handle this, if we do it weekly, and I do think it's a good idea to have it weekly because it would sort of help incubate and nurture things, but perhaps make it so that it's not like a compulsory thing, and also have it more like a support group for everyone working on the network. And if someone's got something they want to talk about, they can come, and then people can suggest solutions and then can be held accountable to the group. But if someone's doing something who's ticking along just fine, they don't have to turn up.
Fair comment.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
I think the weekly thing is a good way to start too. I would probably end up being more bi-weekly or monthly, like DerrickJ said, but I think weekly's pretty good to start off because, I mean, we need to get the ball rolling, right? We need to stay focused.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so it sounds like the general perception is weekly is good. Maybe back off a bit later. And what I would add to that is maybe if something special happens very quickly, you say, okay, forget the schedule, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
We're going to have a special one now, but back to the pre-programmed timing later or something.
We could call it DEF CON. We're like, we're at threat level. Just like have these like Cobra, in the UK we call them Cobra meetings, where all the top echelons of power. I mean, we literally could just turn this into a total parody of top-down control. And like, pick your ruler.
We're having a Cobra Gold meeting, 7 a.m.
I wonder what type of dictator Derrick. What type of dictator would you be, Derrick? How would you rule over the minions?
I would do my very best job. I will be accountable to the people because it's going to be all public and on the record. So I want to represent well.
I know I got a bit sci-fi earlier with the GitHub, but what do you guys think? I mean, I'm just doing it experimentally at the moment. I'm putting like thoughts and things into Git, like a private Git repository that's just on my computer, and then putting the hash into the blockchain, so that at some stage later, if it ever needs to be scrutinized for whatever reason, I can prove that that work existed. I actually think this could be a really good way of handling an organization like ours that does have public, money coming in, where we do need accountability. Like, how about this for a scenario? You don't, like, in companies in general, a big part of running companies isn't actually about building the widgets or doing anything in the factories. A lot of it is shuffling emails, doing spreadsheets, and making PowerPoint slides to persuade one group of people into buying something that you've got to sell for more than you bought it for. And a lot of that is just influence, going out for meetings, and it's like, trying to persuade people, your mate that you went to uni with, to take on this big, purchase order, whatever, And the problem with it is that a lot of it's kind of dark artsy. A lot of it is about, wheeling and dealing. And one of the senses that we've been getting from other, let's just say institutions within this arena is that they give off the pretense of transparency on the outside because they're like, oh, look at all this excessive transparency we're doing. We're publishing all the stuff, but of course you don't know what you don't know. So they're just not publishing all of that other stuff. So one of the ideas I had this afternoon after our show with Nick was, well, what if you could only commit a purchase order or whatever, some business decision into the project by merging your Git branch into the main line? But you could keep it a secret, so no one could see the content, but those were your emails doing the deals with people. And then just one other person had to witness it, make sure that the hash matched up, and they could see that you did the work at that time. And then that's it, and that's enough for people. Because then what I noticed during Gox, and I know I've been going on about this a bit, but I cannot get over how good Reddit was at surfacing information before anyone else. Like, just regular people were coming on saying, right, this is how much I had in my account. This is how much I had in my account, right? And they were working out where all the addresses were. These are the police officers. So what if you had, like, everyone in the future is responsible for bringing justice to the world. Like, if you see that homeless person stuck outside of that room that's been derelict for 5 months, like, it's your job to see justice. It's your job to get him inside of there. You wouldn't want to see it any other way. So what would happen is you'd have this self-select group of, like, the police, to take it back to its origin, just members of the polis. And what they would do is you would do a deal with someone. It would be hashed. It would be private, and then one of the police would be randomly selected to just take a look at segments of the data, make sure the hashes all lined up. You could do it in a Merkle tree as well, so that they wouldn't have to see the whole thing. They could just see random parts of it, and they see like 5 random parts. Those hashes work. Those hashes work. Yes, okay, I'm happy with that. And then you're not giving up all this kind of private data. You still get to have your deals and stuff, but then you don't get all this like corruption where like you're giving people backhanders or you're cutting them in, and then all the middlemen end up siphoning the funds. Did I explain that well, or is that okay?
This is the most accountable and exciting development that I've heard in a long time. Like this, I think, has the potential to lead the way away from coercive governments into voluntary ones. If we can set this example of transparency, governments, regardless, I think this is an interesting project, and the accountability aspect is what makes it so unique. Very, very cool, and I appreciate all the insights that you've shared thus far, Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant piece of thinking and a great alternate use of this type of technology. My concern is that if it becomes too burdensome for people to bother doing in the first place, because people can just go on Reddit, username, password, type in whatever they're feeling disgruntled about, hit post, they're done. Now, there is the old saying of convenience is the enemy of security. So I think it would take some slick designing to do. And I mean, and the thing is, if it was easy to do, we'd all be doing PGP emails to each other, but we're not, because it's been too much of a pain for ordinary people to do.
Yeah, I agree. So how do we fix that?
Just make a simple tutorial video to start it about how to do the GitHub thing, and just show an example for people that are not programmers or whatever, because they probably know how to do it already, just for normal people that are creating ideas from that point of view. Just show an example, and start from there and see if anyone can understand what you're talking about, and if they can really use it, and then you can explain in a simple way, the ramifications of what all this is, like we just did with the transparency. But just show it in a real simple way, like, oh, I've got an idea and I want to prove that I had this idea on this date, and so I'm going to put it on GitHub, and that's my dream or whatever. And I'm going to put, my dream of the future on GitHub, and that's permanent, and I did it, and no one else can do it. Or you can fork my dream or whatever, and you can,
Yeah. Sorry, I think that's fine. I think the other side of it that Chris was talking about is the just recording a hash of of information that you would like to remain private. That is somewhat of another level, and maybe someone could write a really basic reference application like there's Bitcoin QT to automate some of that process, so people can not get too lost in the mire of cryptography when they probably don't need to. If they just put in their GitHub account details and have a program that sucks in a file and spits out a hash up to GitHub or something for them.
Well, that could be a shell script, right? Like something like that. Yeah. That wouldn't even need to be a very serious program. That could be as simple as a shell script for Linux.
Yeah, I sort of see our role as being the early adopters and the trailblazers. So we'd be the ones that would put up with going into terminal and generating a hash. But then as other people, as I think, if we prove this can work, like as a case study, as a pilot, it might provide an incentive for developers who are going to be watching our shows anyway, going, actually, there could be a market for this. I could build something that could automate. We've already got the guy who made OkCupid is now making Keybase.io, which is helping make PGP sexy and making it easy to use so that you can, have a place where you can cryptographically sign your Twitter account, your GitHub account, and so on. So, I might reach out to those guys and see if they're interested in working with any of this, because I think it could be really powerful. Like Derrick is saying, you could end up just completely disintermediating government, like in the next year. Like the technology's here, it's just we now need to know what to do with it. So like if you actually start saying, how about we do it like this? How about rather than, a phone, maybe it's a paperweight, maybe we could use it for this instead. And then other people start seeing you doing that, and then they start copying. And then before you know it, we've got revolution on the streets. In fact, it won't be. It'll be streamed. It'll be a peaceful revolution because nobody will bother fighting each other. Like all the warlords, they can all go kill each other. They can all go to Russia and kill each other. There's a big bit of land in the middle there. They're going to kill each other there, and then we can actually live on the rest of the planet peacefully.
Yeah, the revolution will be on YouTube.
Yeah. Derrick, what do you want to say?
Oh, what if the politicians threw a war and no one showed up?
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant. They're more than welcome to have their own wars as long as they don't kill any innocent people, just themselves. They can kill each other, but they can't kill us.
Just a random description on the decentralizing the world. I was reading an article yesterday about all of the what I call micronations dotted around the world. It'd be kind of great to get in touch with those people and sort of drop off a goodie bag with them, so that all these like tiny independent states of 50 or 100 people could start using Bitcoin internally.
Yes, and of course, if you want to fund me, you can see the Bitcoin address and the doobly-doo down below, and you can send me to the Cayman Islands. That would be lovely, thank you. No, but there's lots of British colonies out in the Pacific. I could go there, I could dress up as the Queen, I could make it all ceremonial. More than happy to do whatever I have to do for the cause. There's a serious point. The serious point, though, what I find with a lot of these foundations and stuff that are cropping up is they mostly attract traveling salesman types. So you're usually looking for people that want to draw on the expense account. They want to be able to they want this lifestyle of just jetting around, selling Bitcoin. And I don't know, I think there are more cost-effective ways of doing it. So like this guy, Mitch from Ghana, he's an expat from America, but he's coming on holiday to London, and then I'm going to give him some memory sticks with the blockchain on and stuff, and then he can just take that back. There's no need for me to fly out to Ghana and raise money to do that. You can just make the most of the connections you have. I happen to be in the UK at this time, well, I can come and meet you and just try to operate those kinds of things.
Yeah, it's much more cost effective, and you can also maybe even put tutorial videos on the memory stick, because memory sticks can store a ridiculous amount of information now for very little money.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? It's a bit jumping topic a little bit. Something that I've got in my mind and I don't know how to say in words, and I'm asking you guys if you can put it into maybe a paragraph or less. When I see all these wars, I don't know how many there are now, but there's many of them, and they say oh, bring our boys home and all this, and saying it's very sad that you've lost your son and all this kind of thing. But I say, well, if they were paid for by, let's say Bitcoin just for example, but if they're paid for by people determining where the money went rather than by the government, the Fed banking kind of thing. If they were paid for by the people and said, do we want to go to war with that, I have to say country for the moment, even though I don't like the word country. I said, what if you were paid for by the people to do the work of the people that they don't really want to do, like being a fireman or a bin man or a street cleaner? I said, well, yeah, I could do it, but I'd rather pay somebody else to do it. Okay, well, I'll do it. How do you explain that to people that say, look, if you weren't working for if the government wasn't paying you to go out there and risk dying, why would you be doing it? Would you hate this culture or that culture or this country or
No,
this country? You know?
no, it's got nothing to do with the people that go out there. It's men in their 40s telling men in their 20s to go stake their lives for an argument they had in an air-conditioned building. Like, what the fuck? It's got nothing to do with the people on the ground, or the innocent people, the children that get born into these war zones through no choice of their own. Like, leave them the fuck out of it. Have your fight, but take it outside, please. Go to Mars or something, or go to this new comet, whatever it is. Just go somewhere else where it doesn't affect people that want to have nothing to do with you. It doesn't have anything to do with the populations, I don't think, in the most part.
I think some of the issues raised varies, but yeah, in theory, it'd be great if you could just have like what I would call like nano democracy, where every single action that a country takes emerges out of a consensus. However, that comes down to an issue of implementation, and also look at the engagement of general elections. At least in the UK, very few people actually bother to vote, and that's just going to the polling booths once every 4 or 5 years to vote in a government. So trying to get everyone to take a stance on every single issue that it takes to run a country is very. I don't think it's practically possible at the moment. I would love it if we had some sort of hive mind system. It's sort of like we had like Twitter coming in directly into our brains, and we could just like mentally click like on all of the policy decisions.
Slacktivism.
Yeah, but that is practically how a consensus would come out.
The way that ancient Athens dealt with this was they had a hill of sticks, and you went up there. I think it was like 6,000 people. Any member could have a say over government, and you got given a small amount of money, not enough that you could earn a living doing this, but enough that it would pay for you wouldn't waste a day, and anyone could have their say, and then you basically rattled, things and voted for people. It was a bit like a more sort of serious version of X Factor or something, where the audience gets to vote people on and off. And if you trolled 3 times, you got put in prison, right? So you couldn't just go up there and bullshit people. So you were leveraging the crowd. And look, it's not necessary. I mean, what you're talking about sounds a lot like liquid democracy, which we've talked about before on the network. And I think the most successful part is what was his name? CEO of Overstock was saying, Patrick Byrne, he was saying the most successful period of ancient Athenian democracy was the sortition phase, about 70 years, where the leaders were randomly selected. And one of the struggles that modern democracies have is its intervals of elections are way too far apart, because information travels way too quickly across jurisdiction now. So 4 or 5 years, ridiculous amount of time to be in power for. You don't need, like, things get done like in minutes on the internet these days. People just spontaneously get together, they sort things out. And the second thing is you vote for one group of people who then just end up hiring unelected people to do the actual work. So none of the work is actually done by the politicians you elect. They just end up sitting in an office all day signing off on stuff. It's the civil servants that actually deliver it. And the amount of executive leeway that they get, you may as well have not bothered voting. Like, to be honest, they're all pretty much going to do the same thing. All the politicians actually do day to day, and I know if there was a politician on there, they'd be screaming bloody murder at me. But the way I see it working, having spoken to people and met politicians, they basically sit behind a desk all day and do press interviews and screw things up. There's even a sitcom in the UK called The Thick of It, which made a parody of this, and apparently the people in Westminster loved it because it was so true. If only it were funny, right? It was so close to reality, people freaked out. Because it was like they just kept cocking things up and they'd say something wrong on camera and it's like, yep, that pretty much is it. Like in government, you don't have anything like the kind of power that you really think you do. It's very, very chaotic. And like it was getting to the point where people were like reading the newspaper and finding stuff out about things they'd said that they didn't even know. Right, so it'd be like, yeah, Labour have just launched this policy initiative, and like the Prime Minister apparently would be reading it, going, "Did we?" Like, like it's that chaotic and disorganized. So I actually think that we'd be much better off with the experts sticking to what they know, and the people letting them do what they're good at, but holding them accountable with this Athenian-style democracy, where if anyone starts taking the piss, you call them to the account. In ancient Greece, they called it it was the sophos and the demos, the experts and the people, and then you had the episteme, the knowledge, and the doxa, the opinion, and that both of those two had to work hand in hand. You couldn't just have the experts going off monomaniacally working on their thing because they just because they're clever doesn't mean they're good. You know, they could still get greedy and corrupt and so on. But you still had the wisdom of the crowd that could step back and actually say, this doesn't feel right. You know, there's something's not kind of chiming true. So I've often said this. I don't want to go off on one, but I've said, like, the responsibility of our civilization is that because we can see into all the others, that's our responsibility. We've got the big picture. In ancient Greece, all you had was, as far back as you went, was Homer. Like, even with Herodotus, he didn't really give you anything. So all you had was your own civilization's history. Rome had a bit of Greek history, but of course they made up a lot of stuff. They took a lot of things from Greece and then didn't really, in fact, even the word Greece is a made-up word by the Romans because they wanted to take the credit for stuff. In ancient Egypt, they didn't have historians. But Herodotus and ancient Athens, they actually created history so that we could. So then we ended up creating anthropology and archaeology. So maybe one of the duties of our civilization is to learn from the past instead of carrying on repeating the same old mistakes. Look into some of these ancient civilizations and ask, like, well, how did they do it? And did it work for them? And if it did, how does this methodology that they found work in a modern world with all of this hyper, you know, connectivity and this cryptography and stuff? Because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of things we could do with these tools that we've got that people thousands of years ago would have dreamed of. We could still maintain the essence of a lot of their thinking and just reapply it for a modern age. What do you think?
Created a pregnant pause, didn't it?
Oh, Derrick's talking, but we can't hear you, Derrick. Is that because you're muted?
I muted my microphone, hardware muted. But I was saying that the tools that we have available now provide for more accountability than ever before, and I think that's the ball we need to run with, regardless of, you know, what historical governments have done. We have an opportunity to start a new page of history, and it is based on being totally accountable to the public and the world. I mean, it doesn't get more transparent than this, given the tools that we have about having these meetings in public, having every receipt accounted for and hashed into the blockchain permanently. This is brand new and the most accountable way I can imagine running any sort of DAC.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Anyone else?
Yeah, I have to agree with Derrick on that. I think it's the main thing we should do is try to strive for accountability and building a framework that other people can build off if they feel, you know, maybe we're doing it wrong or something. They can take what we have and, like Theo said, fork our dreams.
Nice. Yeah, that was a really good line. And if anyone watching this wants to volunteer by putting any time signatures into the comments, that would be really cool as well. Or I guess one of us could do it, or a couple of us could do it. So the reason I didn't take any notes was because I wanted to stay more present during the meeting, and since we're recording it anyway, it's fine. So yeah, one of the things that we'll do is we'll go through this. What I propose is, we've had one comment from Paul, and I'll address that in a minute. I was going to propose that we pencil in a meeting for the same time next week. Send me your public keys, your raw public keys from Armory if you want to take part in this experiment with the multi-sigs, and we'll do a little bit of work on Twitter, and we'll get some people to send in some donations, and then we can, like, fund some stuff. And then we'll reconvene same time next week and see how we're all feeling a week later. In the meantime, I will have spoken to Chris at this agency, and probably have spoken to Mitch as well about meeting him up at the end of August. So yeah, the last point, I guess, unless anyone has any others, is what about people recording their own video content to submit and then viewed by admin? If deemed worthy, it could be broadcast on WCN. So Paul, is that from, who's that coming in from? Is that from Lewis, or?
I'm not sure what you're referring to there.
That's
give me a clue?
from the chat room. That's from the chat room. It's from the
Okay.
Trollbox. A guy named Founder NGO asked it.
That's Lewis. Yeah.
Okay.
Lewis has been writing to me pretty much constantly on Skype while we've been talking. So
yeah, we could. I mean,
can't get a
the
good
reason
connection and it keeps going.
the reason why we wouldn't just want it to the admin is because we wanted to make it more open and democratic. But yeah, people could send in their submissions. They could send in videos. We could maybe, it depends how many we get. If we got too many, I guess we'd have to kind of filter through them a little bit. But yeah, we could do that. And then we've also got a comment. Someone was disagreeing about the intervals. Timmy B says, disagree about election intervals. Short election cycles lead to short-term policy making to appease voters at the next election. Yes, that's absolutely true. If you're taking as your assumption that you are going to have election cycles in which the politicians just get really good at getting elected. So I was thinking, and maybe I didn't explain this, I was thinking more like you give the work to the experts that are actually good at applying the work, i.e. not the politicians that just sit in air-conditioned offices and actually it's the civil servants that do the work. But actually you would have, like we're going to have, addresses for specific projects that we're working on, so that when someone sends money to that address, they're not just voting, they're also like giving money to that particular cause. They know where their money is going to go. Then the World Crypto Network also has its umbrella account, and so yeah, if you want to fund the administrivia, sure, that's fine, pay the middleman. But only if the middleman is doing their job, right? Like the profit should come as a result of getting the work done, not because you just happen to sit between them and the output. So that was what I was thinking. But yeah, I totally agree that it would, in our current system, it would lead to just tons of short-term thinking. And David?
I just wanted to put a request out to everyone who's watching this, because one thing that we're really going to need is to build up a lot of momentum and a lot of public interest. I mean, the interest in this town meeting has been great because Chris has done a great job of really building it up and getting a lot of interest and excitement about it. So I think to everyone watching, if you can just do the slacktivism, just post links wherever you hang out and wherever your friends hang out, because on the side of approaching this like a media organization, and I know that sounds like a very dirty term, but we are creating content. We need an army of loyal followers who are going to try and make our stuff go viral.
Yeah, we were very careful about how we publicize this, because I didn't put this up on our Bitcoin. I didn't put it up on Bitcoin Talk because I didn't want too many trolls. I focused this very much on people that had already expressed and their support for the network over the last few months. I went through all my favorites on Twitter and I individually tweeted people out to give them the link to this show. So I wanted the right people here. I didn't want everyone here. But yeah, going forward, we would have this become more of a routine. There would be more awareness around it. The only thing is, like, when these things start to get big, as we noticed with Feathercoin, it gets very, very difficult to manage, because then people don't know each other, and so then you get trust issues, and when things start to scale, it starts to fall apart. So that'll be an interesting challenge. But hopefully this thing with the multi-sig will kind of be a self-healing mechanism, because people will just be able to join in these little groups,
Yeah, and what I was saying was strictly limited to our followers. When we say, oh, we're going to do a show, our followers then just go crazy posting, spamming links out.
You mean like they should be spamming links, or you think it's a bad idea?
No, they should be, because we want as many people to come in and watch our stuff as we can. So I'm engaging a few dirty terms there, like spamming and media organization, but it's the nature of what we're doing to a degree.
Well, it's the relevance is important. I don't mind being advertised to as long as it's relevant to me. And the problem now is that advertising doesn't send the same kind of signal it used to when it was broadcast networking, because back then it was expensive to buy advertising. So you had to, that organization must have money and they must be established and selling to consumers. Whereas now anyone can buy advertising, so that doesn't really mean anything anymore. But I am encouraged now that people are very good at recognizing authenticity. Nobody likes being sold a dodgy product or likes having their time wasted. So what's happening now is that companies are having to work to get recommendations from influencers. I'm getting regular people like emailing, like, can you mention me on your Chris Before Coffee? Can you show our product? And it's like, well, have you got something to show me? Because if all you've got is a crowdfunding campaign, then I can't really help you. But if you've got a product, because I've got to think about my reputation as well. If I just go telling people about this thing and then it turns out to be, you know, dodgy, or not even dodgy, it just doesn't work very well, then it looks bad on me too. So I do see this starting to emerge now, that companies have to work very hard at being authentic and relevant to the people they're talking to. And that's why I think advertising is dying, and it needs what we're trying to do right now, which is this voluntary payment system. I mean, I'd like to see plugins in the browser where you pay your Bitcoins up front, like 0.1 Bitcoin a month goes on content, and then the little plugin automatically searches for Bitcoin addresses on all the sites you go to, and if you spend more than 30 seconds on a site, it actually automatically pays that person according to your monthly budget. So you're already committing, psychologically, you've already committed yourself to that money. So what you're doing is you're getting people to buy into a belief, right? People want to become the person they want to be remembered as. So you're saying, like, are you the sort of person that supports peace and activism? Well, in which case, why don't you donate to Derrick? And why don't you set aside a budget monthly where it's like whenever you watch one of Derrick's videos, it automatically pays him. And that way you don't even have to think about it. There's no friction there. You just watch the video and Derrick gets paid at the speed of a thought. Like it's just there, done. And you still get to invest in that legacy that you're building for yourself. You still get to be remembered as that person. You still get to think about yourself in terms of that kind of person. I think that's the kind of future I want to see. It's much more voluntary. Cool, cool. So we've lost a few people. We're down. But we still haven't heard from the fat controller of the whole network. We still haven't heard from Murdoch himself, Mr. Thomas Hunt. He's probably like sitting behind that screen going, can't believe he's taken over the network. He's like democratizing it, and he's like carrying out.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
There he is with his window. He's in his dark room with his cat. He's probably got a cat as well.
I made the Photoshop of Derrick as Stalin. He's got a mustache, huh?
Oh, brilliant.
I don't know. Sounds good. You can do what you want.
Like I said, I do think it's important that we build these frameworks too, because it allows people to create smaller subsets inside the bigger group as well, right? Like they can start their own project and their own form of funding within the WCN. They don't necessarily need to go to the higher ups for permission.
Yeah, yeah. It should be very. Oh yeah, we still got to work out how we deal with passwords for websites. And Blake was saying that he can set up a script so that if we all get PGP keys, it will set every 3 months when we have this rotation of people, it will only send out the passwords to those private keys, to those people with those public keys. So only you'll send it out to everyone, but you'll only be able to decrypt the email if you have that key. So that's a good idea. That was a very clever idea. So yeah, so there are options. We can do it. I guess we should think about wrapping up soon. Does anyone else have anything to add? It's been pretty productive. How would you rate my performance today, everyone, on a scale of 1 to 10? How did I do? Should I keep doing this? Does anyone else want to do this next week?
I think you're. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I thought you were excellent as a moderator, helping generate discussion. I'd like to see in future meetings, if you'd like to continue as a moderator role, clear agenda that all of us can read from, so that I'm clear on what's coming up, topic we're on at any given moment. And other than that, I've enjoyed your moderation. Thank you, Chris.
Cool. Yeah. Anyone else?
I'm just really stoked you're able to get everybody together. It's awesome talking to and hearing what everyone has to say. I'm always stoked to listen to DerrickJ. I have to be honest. I'm a big fan.
What I like to listen to is not only about the Bitcoin, which obviously is the focus of or crypto, whatever is the focus, but you seem to have a lot of quite diverse perspectives on things. And you've done a lot of research and work and put it together. So it's not just about how many dollars is Bitcoin today is kind of, well, you know, in Rome they did this, in Greece they did that, and you're like, oh, yeah. And then this empire did that, all that kind of thing. That is very interesting to me, and then you pull all that together in a very good way and can package it into a quite compact way that for the rest of us to learn from without having to do 3 or 4 years in university to get a degree on one of them.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so next time then, I will be more forthcoming with the agenda. I did put it on Reddit, but I don't think that Reddit is not everyone's cup of tea. So I did do Reddit, but then I've realized that there's a certain type of person that goes on Reddit, and not everyone is into it. So I don't think Reddit is the best place to be posting up agendas and stuff, because it's just, to a lot of people, it's countercultural. So what I'll do next time is I'll just email it out. I'll put it in GitHub as well, and then I'll just email it out to people and just generally spread that a bit more far and wide. And then, yeah, so I guess that's it, guys. We've had no more comments, I don't think. Oh, Cheryl's saying...
So do you have an email address to subscribe to?
We need to set up domain email addresses. Tom, can you do that? Can we set up like Chris at... Say again? I think it's a yes.
Yeah, we can set up forwarding addresses with GoDaddy.
Yeah.
Or it will be
GoDaddy. Oh no, ethical failure.
Whatever. You can waste your time with other registrars and find the right.
Well, I quite like Hover. Hover they've got a pretty good track record. But anyway, that's not important. So yeah, let's set up an email address, and then I guess we can like put that at the bottom of these videos so that people can get in contact. So can you, is it possible, Tom, for you to set up Chris at worldcryptonetwork.com, and then anyone can just send that right now? Well, not right now, but like within a day or something.
It would be nice if we're talking about the frequency of these videos, if you can send out an email. If they're out, I'm subscribing, and oh, by the way, we're going to have a video conference on a certain day for people to subscribe. And it's a low interference way of just, it could be a one-liner. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
For future meetings, it's great to have audience participation in text form via the chat box and Reddit and wherever else people are participating. I have the ability, since I do Bitcoin Talk Show from here, to have Skype callers or regular phone callers. So if people want to dial in via their phone and contribute to the town hall discussion, I'd be happy to open up that possibility for us as well, if you guys are into that.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds really good.
And if everyone out there would be interested in having like a weekly email digest of stuff that's gone out on WCN channel, that's something I could do, seeing as last few years I've been a journalist, so I can certainly rate copy.
That would be very valuable to me.
Cool, yeah.
Thank you for offering that, David.
Yeah.
Yeah, make sure you do your commits in the GitHub and send us your hashes so we can... Proof of work. We should call it proof of work. That's what you're doing. It's a human proof of work algorithm.
Yes, yes.
So you're basically creating, so the kind of world we're creating is a world where you publish your public debt. You say, well, the other way around, the public credit. So you say, look, this is what the public owes me. Look at all this work I did, and I built all this, If anyone forever wants to send money to this address for this work that has been done, it just gets to, it just sits there. So you get like a long tail effect.
Well, I'll just tease for another show. I can really say how that is not done in the online blogging rating world, and I can sort of sit and complain bitterly about that on another show.
Yeah. Well, and maybe, get some solutions on the go as well, because it would be good to, like I say, fix this problem.
I could really do with that, yeah.
All right, so just one last. I think we can end on this comment from Cheryl Carr, who says, "Why do we need politicians at all? Can't we just have issues posted to the blockchain and actions voted on by participants?" What a great way to end. So listen, everyone, thank you so much for joining us on our first World Crypto Network Town Hall meeting. It's been an absolute pleasure. We will be putting this video in the GitHub repository, github.com/World Crypto Network, and we'll be publishing the hash into the Bitcoin blockchain later on this evening. So thanks very much for joining us and helping us make history, and we will see you next time.